Hi, Kari.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for sort of joining us today. I'll properly introduce you, if I may. Kari Niedfeldt Thomas from CECP, which is Chief Executive for Corporate Purpose, the Managing Director of the Advisory Services and Insights, which is exactly what we want to tap in today, your insights, right?
Exactly.
And we want to talk about diversity and inclusion, which is a major challenge in the US and also in Israel. And I think you will probably agree with me that diversity and inclusion has become much more urgent in the States in recent years, right?
Absolutely. The last few years, there has been a palpable interest and demand to escalate this work for companies.
Wow. And so how would you define the current trends in diversity and inclusion? Sort of what would come to mind?
So I will say, immediately after the killing of George Floyd in May of 2020, companies issued statements and they were sharing their pain, their values, and their commitments to broader society. And CECP has actually kept on our main page of our website, cecp.co, the anti-racism statements that these companies, CEOs and C-suites made. We want to make sure that there's transparency into our coalition and what the world's largest companies have said that they would do. So these commitments from companies, though, were about how they were planning to work differently, how they were looking at their communities, such as grant making and volunteerism. It was also about how they were looking at their supply chain with supporting minority and women-owned vendors and businesses. But most importantly, they were looking at their employees. And all of these companies, if they didn't already have one, they hired a chief diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. All of these companies were spending time doubling down on the funding and the structural support for their employee resource groups, which are often called ERGs. But the biggest trend is really understanding that these DEI efforts are a business imperative and that this will drive their competitiveness as a company. And so these leaders are in the field for companies. They're really looking at how their business using metrics and how they can dig deep into their recruitment, their retention, their promotion pathways for their employees. And they're looking at it in their workforce. They're looking at it in middle management, in senior roles, and also on their board of directors. And all of these companies have been spending time assessing why, after years of efforts, it has not worked. And then what they're doing is looking at how they can really build the best strategies. And they're treating this business imperative for DEI the same as they would any other business need or problem or strategy. They're spending time evaluating, they're coming up with the plans to put it in place, and then they're developing the key performance indicators to be able to measure it to ensure that they're performing as they claim that they would. But this is going to be a long journey. After many years of companies saying that they were doing DEI, but really didn't have the structures in place to implement on it, for us to see progress, it will take years.
Right. It's a definitely a long journey, but I mean, to answer the question that you've raised, which is, we've been working on DEI for quite some time, and still, you've said it very bluntly. I mean, there wasn't enough progress. So, are you sort of more convinced that we'll see more progress in years to come now? Is it the structures? Is it the top level commitment? What would make the difference here, in your opinion?
Well, one of the key components that we're seeing at companies is that to be able to execute on these strategies, they're linking it to executive compensation. that if executives are receiving bonuses based on achieving key performance indicators connected to DEI, you better be certain that they absolutely are going to work to implement them. And that's been a shift. Before it was we're going to look at it, we're going to evaluate it, we're going to do our best. But now companies have recognized that doing your best isn't enough. You have to actually measure progress, report on it, be transparent, and then assess how you're going to improve.
Yeah. And connected to the compensation packages. That's very powerful. And one of the things that's really challenging is I mean, diversity is easier to measure in a way. You look at the numbers. I mean, what would mark, in your eyes, the stepping up from diversity to equity and inclusion?
Well, I think it's exactly what you said, that diversity is about counting the numbers across various diversity strands. So the most common would be gender, ethnicity, disability, but there are many other diversity representation in your workforce or your board that companies are tracking. Inclusion, though, is assessing, do people feel that they are welcome and that they belong? So when you talk about really the change that has happened for companies, they for years would track internally, not always externally reporting their diversity numbers. But it is at the point now where they're asking themselves, we have spent years working on this. Why hasn't it worked? And inclusion is that bridge to get there. If companies are not holding town halls and other trainings and learnings for employees to help them advance their culture and understand implicit bias, then you could be certain that those cultural issues, those biases that are in the workplace are going to only continue. So companies have been reversing that. They have been investing in gatherings, bringing employees together to talk through issues that have prevented inclusion in their company, and they're being transparent and honest with each other about how do we change those aspects that haven't worked. Companies are also really assessing how to think through their recruitment channels. The common way that companies often recruited years ago was to go to the schools where their current employees went and recruit from those schools. Could be an engineering program or some other. And I think companies have recognized if we are looking at our recruitment through only the eyes of those who are here and only going out to their networks, our continual systemic recruitment is only going to be people who look like those who are currently at our companies. So inclusion is very critical for companies when they're thinking about whether or not an employee wants to stay. Employees, you could look at how many employees may be recruited, but you can certainly see as you look across the workforce advancement into middle management, into C-suite roles, where obviously some individuals who are recruited to come into a company have not found that they feel included. They don't feel they belong, and therefore they leave. So companies are really saying to themselves, what is it that we should be doing differently? What are the barriers that are in place? What are the soft skills that are needed? What are the technical skills that we need to give our employees? What are the support systems that we need to grow this inclusion so employees want to stay? And then they're also looking at their promotion pathways. I would be remiss to not mention that companies are also looking at supplier diversity. How do we not go to the same suppliers? How can we advance and build diverse supplier networks? And then make sure that we also are looking at our employee resource groups, how employees are finding the mentoring, how they're finding the opportunities to help shape company strategy. So I would say in all of those areas, that's how companies have moved beyond just tracking diversity numbers to looking at inclusion, which eventually leads to equity, which is the ultimate outcome that employees are equitably being engaged across your company, not just equally. Equity is the long-term outcome.
Right. And so I'm hearing here a lot about dialogue, a lot about transparency. Things are out there in the open, and also career paths, which is maybe the most concrete thing to measure and see how your company is doing, how your employees are doing. Any sort of, any case study that sort of inspired you that you could share that kind of shows the difference between before and now, as you so sort of clearly, I think, shared with us so far?
Well, I could suggest to anyone watching this that you can look at sustainability reports from 5 years ago, and then look at sustainability reports today. And it is important to see the difference in how companies are reporting where they have been. So in the past, I would say companies, there was certainly have been some leaders, and I will mention a few of them on this in this conversation here as case studies, but that how companies have performed and also how they're setting up targets. So in the past, companies were more comfortable just sharing, this is where we are in this year, or maybe this is where we've been over the past couple of years. What you will start to see, though, is that companies are now setting targets of where they want to be, and they're delineating the strategies that they're putting in place to be able to achieve those targets. So disclosure is important of where you are. And for any of the companies that are not yet disclosing your diversity metrics, you should know your employees are paying attention to that. They're expecting it of you, as are your customers and other stakeholders. But that year-over-year changes and showing it in a disaggregated way, not putting all of, for example, gender in one representative sample, but breaking it down across the various employee tiers is critical. Same for people of color, and separating out people of color so it's not all as one, but there are very clear goals. So I'll give a couple of examples. Dell has disclosed that they have a goal that by 2030, they are going to have 50% of their workforce and 40% of their global people leaders identify as women. And then they are reporting the specifics around how they are achieving that. Another example, Microsoft. They're disclosing multi-years, back many, many years, and then also showing what their goals are. And they're doing it across various staff tiers. They have a number for all staff, but when we talk about disaggregating the data, splitting it apart, they're showing what it is for partners and executives, what it is for directors, what it is for managers, for technical roles and other positions. Walmart, for example, shows where their goals have increased year over year. So, for example, in one of their sustainability reports, they showed that 58% of their women had been promoted and 40% of people of color in US management were promoted in a year over year. So sharing those specific metrics and those year over year changes, looking backward, but also looking forward, is absolutely critical for companies who are truly taking their DEI journey seriously.
Well done. I mean, it's metrics, but it's still inspiring. I think, as you remember, a sort of a conversation with a global company about disclosing diversity numbers, and they were said, everything is out there in the open, but it's on a regional sort of basis, and obviously you can't really make anything out of that. And you're definitely showing here the way forward. That's excellent. So, Kari, you gave us a lot of food for thought. That was very insightful, as the name promises. Thank you very much.